Welcome back to the Iris and Jose project. And this is Deep into the Shallows, where we discuss social dynamics, everyday social dynamics in a judgment free way. Um, I am Iris, and with me is.
Okay. And today we are going to talk about gossip. So we're going to give a shout out to AI, even though we're just going to read it. Gossip, often defined as informal and usually unverified information about others. So it has deep roots in human history and culture. Its origins can be traced back to the early forms of communication, where sharing information about others was essential for social bonding and community cohesion. Traditionally, gossip served several purposes, such as establishing social norms, enforcing community rules, and reinforcing social hierarchies. So, before I pass it back to you, I do want to share one story about my life. So, back in the day, I was a freshman and there was this rumor. It was true, but it was a rumor going around that I really liked this one girl and that we should be nominated on the homecoming court for freshmen.
Ooh,
And so everybody established that social norm that like, ooh, Jose likes this girl, like they should be put front and center in front of everybody. And it's a small town, so it's like it's not that bad. But with that little gossip that started, it started with like one of the most popular kids in school. And like his social hierarchy that he had, just given that little clout out there to me and that girl, it was crazy. And that gossip started right there. And it was about me. So it's like,
wow.
I,
It caught
yeah.
on like wildfire, and you were the representatives for the freshman homecoming court because of this rumor. And somehow he knew, somehow, who told him? You told one person, and then they gossiped about it until it got around to the whole freshman class that you liked this girl. Unless you made it totally obvious, by staring at her and, like eyes and like your eyes, like da, da, hearts floating around you, all that. Wow. Well, this is where the conversation is becoming really interesting as we go from shame in our last episode to gossip, because you even mentioned it yourself that some people use gossip stories, things they know about other people, little secrets, like currency. They use it like social currency, right? And sometimes they can use it to bond, with other people, like a bonding behavior, like, oh, you won't, like, you think they're this, but guess what? I know this about them. And it's like, wow, now we have this bond where we know the truth about this individual. And then sometimes, and I feel like this is the like more often than not, it's this sort of indirect aggression towards other people. I don't know if that's how you felt it or perceived it, but you know, that's that's how it seems when, you know, socially like that dynamic. Your thoughts?
No, I agree. I think maybe my friend, ironically, I think I told him, but I think he was very passive aggressive, and instead of just letting me kind of make my move all slow like, he wanted me to just do it with after the homecoming nomination. I think like him and my other friends, they wanted me to just like try to pursue this girl instead of
Be
just
boyfriend and girlfriend with her.
yeah. So they passively aggressively just put me in that situation where I should do it, but I still chickened out. I didn't do it.
Okay, well, wait a minute. So, did they think they were helping you, or did they were they doing it in a way to where they could take credit for it, or were they passive aggressive, making fun of you? Like, I mean,
I would
what
say
was that?
because they were just like, Jose, you got to do it someday. Like, you got to try. You can't just be scared your whole life, you know? And so just kind of like pushing me to do it without me having the right state of mind to just,
What
make.
does she like you back?
I think she did at one point, but then, it didn't work out. So it's okay.
You hemmed and hawed too much, or you waited, or you dragged your feet too long, or maybe she got the idea like he's not really serious because he's not really asking me out. Or and what was it? Was it because you were shy?
I was very shy.
Yeah.
And like I'm just a shy person. If I
No,
don't know
you're
your name,
getting
I'm
better. You're better every day. You wouldn't be doing this if you were still shy,
you're
right?
right.
Getting better. Self-aware, just like getting over shame. Self-aware. Well, that's interesting. That's a great story. I'm glad you explained that. That your connection to what could be perceived as and they to me in your story it doesn't sound like the gossip was in a negative way. They wanted to be your wingman. Like let's hook these two up. Let's open the door so that wouldn't it be cool? Maybe they're thinking wouldn't it be cool if like they dated all throughout high school and then they ended up getting married, high school sweethearts. That's like the old story. It's like a fairy tale, right? But then but then again, it may be their own inner shame or their own insecurities causing them to deflect from what's going on with them and shining a light on someone else. Because that's what happens with people who feel shame, right? They use gossip as a way to deflect attention from themselves. Like, wow, look over there at that person, you know, and then they can bond over criticism. Again, they've got that social currency, something that they know. Well, I've got this secret about so and so. That that deflection is very real. Deflecting attention. Um, I don't want to give any names or stories or how I know this story, but let's just say that I know a personal story, and it wasn't gossip. It was just something that was shared with me, and I will not have any names to protect the innocent. But girl A was having had broken up with her boyfriend and had ended up pregnant, right? And so her parents, for some reason, like were catching on and were having a conversation with her, and she used a deflection by saying, um, I've been crying a lot lately because my sister shared with me that she had been molested, right?
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, like totally that's a total 180, like, oh, what? Oh my God, she's molested. Why did we ever know about this? And and it turned out it was like something, like it wasn't like an ongoing sort of molestation. It was just like a one thing where not that it was in, not that that's good either. I mean, it's still bad, but it was a situation where she had been chased by some boys and they knocked her down and they tried to take off her panties, which is horrifying for a little kid to go through something like that. Um, and it's a terrible, terrible thing. But she always kept it to herself. And then when she, let her sister know that she had remembered this at a later age in high school, and then her sister totally used it as a deflection with her parents. I don't know if that counts as gossip because it is a deflection of attention, but it might be. It might be someone has trusted you with information, and now you're sharing it with someone else. So that is an example of hard deflection. Hello, and I don't know if that you've ever had that experience.
Mm, not necessarily with like a hard deflection. Maybe, but I can't recall.
I
But I
can't
mean,
recall.
back in the day, gossip was essentially like a way to keep information and have some type of social dynamic with them. So just kind of talking about, navigating social environment and kind of building alliances. Maybe that's what she did by deflecting and answering, the actual
She
thing
just
that was
didn't
going.
want her parents to dig too deep because she was gonna have to fess up that she was pregnant. So anyway, I've noticed when we are at our conferences that gossip can fly. Have you noticed that? That gossip kind of flies at the conference a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes.
It
Not to talk
just
about it too much because we're still in our careers and all that. But and not to call out any names again, we'll call people like, Mr. A and Miss B. So there may be someone like Mr. A who's a social butterfly and um, really uses the what I know, like, oh, I know everybody and I know and I hear everything and that's their social currency. But I have seen that live in person. So, this group of people who they have all the secrets. They know all of it. It's like They're millionaires of gossip. They hold all the social currency, and if you're lucky enough to know and hear about it, because you're worthy of hearing about it. Um, so uh, I think you and I are of a different circle where we seek belonging through means of not judging. You know, we seek belonging through honesty, whereas that kind of a group they seek belonging through their judgment. I don't know if you see it that way or not, but we're okay with everyone, right? And I honestly don't want to know people's dirty laundry. I don't, you know, I really don't. And it could be that when you feel okay about, where you are, then you're not going to deflect. You're not going to want to hear somebody else. There's a word for getting joy from other people's sadness or harm, and it's harm joy. It's called Schadenfreude, and it's a real thing. Where I mean, to where there's an actual word for it in German, right? Schadenfreude, where you derive like I feel so much better now that I know that this person's miserable, which is horrifying, isn't it? Like knowing that other people, oh, those poor people, they're living in misery. Must suck to be them. What a terrible stance. What a terrible way to be. Like you know, glad that people are, in misery. Well, I'm doing so good. I'm sorry that they are miserable, but oh well, sucks to be them. That's terrible. That's just a terrible stance, you know?
There was this one colleague of mine, we were talking literally today, and she was telling me that they have some students that literally just talk smack about one another, saying like, "Oh, this girl's dumb, like she doesn't deserve to be in our program," or something like that. And I think that deals with the conception of having social control, like this informal means of like regulating your behavior and like just calling other people out for their behavior because they're like not following the path that they're going on. It's not professional,
It's
and it's
not
just
professional. So here's the thing that I would tell my staff, and it's a culture really, and the teacher needs to go ahead and maybe give them a writing prompt
yeah.
or maybe a quote. Said, how do you feel about this quote? And write it on the board. The moment someone shares gossip with you, you are quietly wondering if they gossip about you, not just with you, but about you, which is 1,000% true. Because my mom would always say that to me, like, oh, well, if that person so easily talks about others in front of you, they're very easily going to talk about you. So don't share anything personal with them. So what I would tell my staff then is this. In this circle here, we're all a team. We're not a family because families fight. We're not going to do that. We're professionals. We're a team. And in a team, we're not going to talk assumptions or rumors. If there's someone to share about someone, then they need to be in the room to defend themselves. If you have a gripe about someone, let's bring it to the table with them in the room. You can come and share with something with me if you feel like you want to bounce it off of me first, and then we can decide how we're going to deal with it because there are some things that need to go to HR. But when it comes to rumors and gossip, I'd rather stick to the whole rule of they're not here to defend themselves, so we're not going to talk about it. And that was something that we had. I mean, that's a protocol that we had with staff. Uh, and of course, all the wonderful people at Crossroads. They were so amazing. Such a wonderful program, starting with the heart. We're just keeping it real. But honestly, sometimes it seems like I know when I was younger, gossip kind of felt good in that moment. There was something good about it, and it might be that idea that sort of like, hey, those people that you thought were like on a pedestal, they've got their issues too. Well, it's not really like you feel good about their pain. It's just that, like, oh wow, everyone is in the same journey of life. They're all having their own personal struggles. It's just a relief to know that I'm not the only one who struggles with XYZ thing, you know? But then again, it leaves that residual of distrust with that person if they're coming in and saying, whoa, guess what I was told? They told me don't say anything, but I'm telling you, so don't say anything. And it's like, Okay, I'm sorry. If someone says don't tell anybody and then you go and you tell someone, you've already broken their trust.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to unpack there, don't you think?
There is a lot, and it kind of ruins people's reputations from time to time, like especially on how severe the gossip is or the rumors are. And I think it mainly leads to social isolation. Those
It
individuals
can.
ruin, not ruin, but like kind of resist that, urge to connect with others and just kind of keep to themselves because they don't know what's being said about them.
Yes. Yes. I'm getting look, this is something that I haven't talked about in a long time and I'm gonna go there. I feel really bad. And if I could talk to my friend from junior high, I would. I don't know what it is about being nervous that you can laugh a lot. I mean, I know my first go-to reaction is laughter. Nervous, fear, whatever. I just want to laugh. For some reason, I just want to laugh. And everything made me laugh when I was young. And I can remember that and she was a really good friend. And I feel really bad about this in this moment talking about it because I thought about it. And if I could talk to her, I would apologize. But they were coming in and they were pulling some students aside. We were in the eighth grade and graduation was the next day. And they were telling some of them, you're going to have to go to summer school because you didn't pass and you don't get to cross the state to junior high graduation. And one of my best friends was one of them. And so there's just like certain people, like when you look at them, like I can imagine if you and I had been in that room and that girl was getting told that she wasn't gonna make it, and we're like we know we're gonna cross the stage, and then we look at each other, we kind of like, oh no, she just got told she's not gonna graduate, and it's like it's not out of like I find it so funny. It's just like out of nervousness, and so and then once you start laughing and you can't stop that was so tough and it was awful. And she was crying and I say we, me and another girl, we were my somebody else really close to me. We were laughing. I think that's why in high school I kind of severed ties with everybody because I just had like horrifying habits triggering social dynamics that were not good, you know. And we use humor to get over, pain. And there's storytelling. Storytelling has historically been a way for like people to learn, you know, like, oh wow, you don't want to be the one on the day before graduation that gets pulled out and is told, guess what? You got to take summer school so you don't get to cross the stage. That's embarrassing for your parents. It's embarrassing for you. Look at that. She was wrapped up in a lot of shame. And here we were like nervously laughing about all of it. That's horrifying. So anyway, I am so sorry, Stella. I really, really am. If you get to see this, I love you. You're a great memory for me from junior high, and I feel really bad about that. And I never meant to hurt anybody. So thank you. Anyway, so we have shared experiences, that we can talk about, but sometimes feels like gossip. Um, and then of course, friendly teasing, right? Friendly teasing when you're calling somebody out. Maybe somebody shared something in your friend circle. They shared a personal story with you, and then you get a little too relaxed in a conversation with a whole group. They're like, Jose, when you told me that blah 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 thing, and then you're like, whoa, I didn't mean for you to tell everybody, and then everybody's all of a sudden laughing, like, we're just teasing you. Oh, that looks like something happened to you, like that.
Honestly, it was kind of funny. Um, it was about this one girl, and her name got brought up, and my best friend knew I had like the biggest crush on her for like the longest time. And so when we're having this conversation about her, he just looks at me, just like stares at me. Nothing was said, but then everybody just looks at me and they're like, "Oh, you liked her for so long, right?" And it was very awkward. Like I didn't appreciate that. But and then like my anxiety kicked in because I was like, do I defend myself on like why I like someone in high school? Like there was a lot of stress built into that. And it kind of ruined my self-esteem for like a second to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna be quiet and not say anything right now in this conversation. Felt a little hostile, but it was okay.
Oh my gosh. So it was like a hostility towards you. They were calling you out. And maybe it built like some sense of belonging? Or do you think it
Mhm.
was just like trying to help you feel better about yourself? Do you think maybe they were trying to help you come out of your shell? I don't know if that's what your friends want to do or they just wanted to make you like tease you. That was just teasing. That was flat out teasing, wasn't it?
Because I felt so like just like I needed to defend myself to belong in the group. And there's just a wild interaction after that because then I was just like, I'm just gonna be quiet, not gonna say anything else. Like I don't really need to explain myself. And it was just like I was kind of being aware and trying to reflect on the situation. And I was like, I think just being quiet is the best thing to do right now.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes we do. If we can ourselves defend ourselves from that sort of social teasing, gossip type thing, where we are using humor. We have to build that. Think that's why I've built up my sense of humor, and I have this wit. Like it can be a cutting wit too, because of that defense mechanism. And that probably is where that humor comes from too on your end. I don't know if that's how you feel about that.
Sounds right.
A little bit,
Sounds
a
good.
little bit. So I think we were thinking about too when we originally talked about gossip is, it probably served a social dynamic purpose uh, early on. Let's say like for example, indigenous peoples who used it sort of like didactic storytelling instead of like thinking about it like gossip, but saying, hey, don't be like a jumping bird. He went too far into that forest and he went into the other territory and something happened to him. He ended up like getting whatever, scalped. I don't know what. I'm making the story up. Obviously, I'm trying to make up an indigenous story, and you had to be there to know. But anyway, but you get it. It was didactic. It's like they would use the storytelling method in order to help people learn a lesson to grow. And I can remember actually storytelling being used when I was a kid. It was made up stories, but I can remember distinctly my neighbors. During the summer nights and long summer nights, and I think of the fireflies and the older kids and all of us sitting outside in our neighbor's front yard, and the older girls telling the stories about like, oh, this couple, and they were in a car and they were on in lovers lane, and so they kept hearing something, and so the guy gets out to go check, and she's in her by herself, and then all of a sudden she hears some scratching on top of the car, and so finally she gets out and she looks, and it's her boyfriend's skeleton, scratching the top. And so that's this sort of story I think that's told so that you don't so young girls don't go, to make out lane with their boyfriend because it'll end up really bad. You'll get murdered. You'll end up a skeleton scratching on the roof of the car. Really, it's so you don't do anything, succumb to temptations and hormones. But anyway, storytelling, right? Um, so it's a little didactic. It's not real gossip, but still. And I think sometimes when you can share experiences, and have that sort of collective problem solving, it seems like gossip. Like you're saying, like so and so, this happened to them, and let's have this be a lesson to everyone. Then sometimes you can have that sense of belonging and trust and emotional safety in a friend's circle. Like the example that you gave, where they were calling you out for liking you liked her for a long time, and of course, they're maybe trying to build that sense of belonging or trust or emotional safety in contrast with, excluding or rumor spreading, or passive aggression, or maybe even shaming language. Like, oh, Jose, he likes her, or saying that in front of her, or I don't know what. Hey, that's a girl you like. Come on, man. You're like, or pushing you into her in the hallway. You that happened to you. It did, didn't it? No? Okay. All right. It did. I heard the gossip about it, the rumor. See, there's a saying in Spanish. You've heard it before, lo que no saben componen, right? And the worst kind of, you've never heard that? And so what does it translate to?
I don't know.
You don't know? Uh-oh. So, lo que no saben componen means what people don't know, they're going to make up. So remember that when you're hearing a juicy bit of gossip, this is my last word because you know what that beep means. It means we're running out of time. And so, what it translates to is what people don't know, they're going to make up. And that does happen because people, they start out saying, oh, wow, so and so, this and that, whatever kind of rumor, gossip, and saying, um, oh, you know what probably happened? I'll bet you anything XYZ thing happened. And then before you know it, that with the telephone line and other people spreading that same what if, the hypothetical becomes like part of the story. And then people are just adding on and on to the story. I think there's a song lyric that goes like that too. Yeah, that, that's how gossip, the story grows and grows when it comes to gossip. And that's the treachery in gossip, is that you get far, you remember playing that telephone game, right? Where you whisper in somebody's ear, like, here's the phrase, I like ice cream, and then by the time it goes all the way around, it's like some other, I don't know, elephants floating on clouds, something totally different. But that's how people like they don't hear completely and they change things, and that is exactly how gossip is, right? So, there's a way to break that habit, by interact like I had told you with my staff. Hey, hold on, interrupt that negative dynamic and say they're not here to defend themselves, so I don't feel comfortable talking about them. But maybe if we can discuss the issue without discussing their particular details, or is this my information to share? Ask yourself, is this mine? So that's what I always use as a default. Like, that's your story to share, it's not mine. That's their story to share, not mine. Or maybe we should ask that person directly instead of talking about them indirectly. So those are like tools for our toolkit, right? And replacing criticism with curiosity instead of saying, wow, what's wrong with Jose? Why can't he tell all these? Why is he in love with so many girls and not telling them? Instead of that, ask, what might Jose be dealing with? Um, you know, I didn't mean to use you as an example. That's horrible. That's shaming, bro. That's shaming. No, instead of that, instead of like, God, what's wrong with that person? Say, imagine what they might be dealing with. And again, comes back to compassion, right? And modeling a different tone, you know.
Mhm.
Um, then we begin to change the culture. Like that teacher who's seeing all these students talk negatively, using these tools and showing them, look, our communication, this is not right. That's very aggressive or passive aggressive or deflecting, right? So, some closing reflections. Any closing reflections?
Just when it comes to gossiping, kind of set boundaries like you were talking about and focus on the facts. Just encourage a fact-based discussion and hopefully that creates a supportive culture in, the community or workplace, wherever you are. So
Yeah,
that's all I got.
everyone participates in these social dynamics, and that's why we have these conversations that go deep into the shallows because we all participate in them. And the goal really is awareness, not perfection, because we're all a work in progress. And that's why we try to be non-judgmental. So when we notice patterns, we gain choice. The shallows, this is where most of our social life happens. But when we take the time to look closely, we can learn a lot about ourselves and each other. So I want to invite the viewers or the listeners, if you can, if there's a chat here, um, to think about, if not just reflect in your journal, when have you experienced shame? When have you experienced gossip in various groups? And have you gotten any tools from this conversation that can help you to shift the dynamic to something more positive? Well, I want to thank you, Jose, and thank you, dear listeners, deep into the shallows where everyday conversations reveal deeper truths about how we live together. Anything else?
No, ma'am. Sounds good.
Okay, and our next topic is clicks and
Colts.
cults. Oh my goodness, that's where we've evolved to, huh? I'm looking forward to that. Clicks and cults. Clicks, clubs, and cults, I believe. All right. Well, I want to thank you, dear listener, and I hope you'll stick around for the next episode. Thanks, Jose.